hell's going on with Wilson Contreras and the St. Louis Cardinals? We're going to try and answer that question. I'm not sure if there is a concrete answer to it because I don't think anybody, Wilson Contreras, Ali Marmol, John Mozeliak, could tell you what the hell is going on. This is kind of the Cardinals episode. Jack Aram on the Just Baseball show for Tuesday, May 9th. I mean, like usually we start with non-baseball stuff, but my brain is just all over the place with this Wilson thing. I've been dragged left and right trying to figure out what the hell's going on. And I guess I've got like a decent grasp on it, but then again, I don't know if anybody has a decent grasp on it.
Yeah, it's funny. Like we normally want to talk about like everything across the entire league, and we will. We're gonna hit on some other points, but like I wanted to carve out a nice set of time here to try to unpack what the hell is going on in St. Louis, because there's so many things. Like it's not just the Wilson Contreras situation. The way that they've kind of talked about things, the way they've kind of gone about it. If it was just the Wilson situation, I'd say something. But remember, we were talking about this with Tyler O'Neill before the Cardinals fully sucked, right? We said, hey, this is kind of weird. I don't like how they handle the Tyler O'Neill thing. And that wasn't like, oh, this team is doing terrible. We're trying to figure out what's wrong. It was just, that was a weird way to handle a veteran player who's, played at a high level for many years. And then now we see this situation. So I wanted to zoom out first and just talk about, hey, this seems very uncharacteristic from, I know that the Cardinals are that old school franchise. And when you sign with the Cardinals or you're drafted by the Cardinals, similar to the Yankees, not as extreme, but similar to the Yankees, there's a standard that you adhere to and you accept that and you appreciate that because that's what comes with the territory of playing for one of baseball's most storied franchises that will almost always be in contention. That said, Aaron Boone's not out there hanging out his guys to dry.
No.
And honestly, the other way, that's the one thing. And that's the reason why Aaron Boone, I think, still has a job is that the players love him. From everything that we understand, the players like to play for him. And if his butt's on the hot seat, they're going to kick into gear and play at a higher level. You remember Joe Girardi when he was on the hot seat, like they kicked it into another level. And I think they bought him a little bit more time, or at least almost helped save his job. I don't know if this Cardinals team's going to bat for Ali Marmol. And, I don't know if Wilson Contreras feels like he made the best decision free agency wise. Like you think he's thinking about that already now and saying, what did I do? And was this the right move?
I'm not sure if that's what he's thinking about right now. I actually think that Wilson has been mature and a bit more mature than I've expected him to be. By the way, Just Baseball show presented by BetMGM. Bet with the king of sportsbooks and use the code JustBaseball in our show notes for a deposit match on BetMGM. I wouldn't necessarily be hammering the Cardinals to win the division right now. And no. Contreras, going back to the maturity thing, like this was a guy that was immature in Chicago. And we've talked about that before, and that was very well documented in Chicago. And what I brought up on yesterday's show with Peter was, there's a reason David Ross needed to be in Chicago to catch John Lester. Like there's a reason there was some pushback from some starting pitchers in Chicago that didn't necessarily want Wilson Contreras as his battery mate. Feels like he doesn't have the feel for the game. That's been a thing in Chicago. That is public knowledge. So what do the Cardinals do? They handpick the heir to the Yadier Molina throne, and it's a guy that has always struggled with the one-on-one relationship with starting pitchers.
Yeah.
And now what are you pissed at Wilson Contreras about? Struggling with the one-on-one relationship with starting pitchers.
Yeah.
So I take off my glasses and I rub my eyes and I'm like, what the fuck did you think was going to happen here?
That's exactly what I said. And that's exactly why I wanted to talk about this is the Cardinals, John Mozeliak, we shower praise his way. And no executive is perfect. We talk about the trading Sandy and Zach Gallen. In hindsight's 2020.
And Rosarena and Adolis.
Yeah, but none of those guys look good at the time. Like that happens. You make mistakes. You don't know what you have in front of you. Every organization does that. But it's funny. This is one where it's kind of indefensible because this is one where hindsight isn't really helpful. Like you knew it before. You knew how this was going to go in terms of it might be a little shaky catching wise. We liked the signing, though. At least I did. Were you not pro Wilson Contreras to St. Louis overall?
I was thinking there were obviously some concerns defensively, and that's what we know about Wilson Contreras, right? He lacks some of the catching intangibles, but he has made up for that by being an 800 OPS guy over the course of his career. and by being a freak athlete that can like
Mhm.
backpick guys and has a crazy arm. He's one of the better athletic catchers in
So
baseball, and catching is getting more athletic. So I liked it from that standpoint. But I mean, I knew, you knew, I think every baseball fan knew that they weren't getting Yadier Molina. And based on what I've read from Katie Wu, who's kicking ass
yeah,
reporting
she's
on this
crushing
along
it.
with Ken Rosenthal, like from what I'm gathering here from John Mozeliak and Ali Marmol, they were like kind of expecting a Yachty type
Yeah,
preparation.
so this is the thing. The reason why I liked it, the reason why I liked this move for them was, okay, you're never, no matter who you look for on the free agent market, you're not going to find a Yadier Molina mentally. You're not going to find a guy that handles a pitching staff, that built-in pitching coach on the field like Yadier Molina. So what did they do on the other end? They went to the opposite end of the spectrum. Because remember what Yachty was at the end. He was just his brain. Like it was literally just his brain in terms of what he could do. Physically, he wasn't even the best defensive catcher by the metrics anymore. Obviously, he brought so much value to the table with the way he handled the games. And obviously, he was one of the worst hitters in Major League Baseball. So I figured, all right, get one of the best hitting catchers and get one of the most athletic catchers, and then hope that you can slowly, over the course of a year or two, start to instill those mental sides of things. Even get Yachty involved if you can, and groom that guy, because we saw from the beginning, Wilson's like, it's an honor to be the like heir apparent to Yachty. And I think he was ready to take that on. That doesn't mean that you just become the smartest catcher in maybe Major League Baseball history, or at least in the modern era. So that's where it's crazy to me. And there was one specific quote that blows my mind from Mozeliak, which was, this is from The Athletic and Katie Wu and Ken Rosenthal. What I don't want to have happen is finger point. This is all Wilson's fault. It's not, Mozeliak said. There are many parts of our team right now that are not performing to what we expected. I do think the nuances of the catching side, we haven't had to spend a lot of energy thinking about it because of what Yachty did for us. You know that saying, you sometimes feel like you had a coach on the field? That was Yachty. That's how we thought. Even though you might have a game plan, Yachty had the ability to allow that to evolve during the game, real-time decision-making. Obviously, he wasn't going to do that. Not only would if they got Sean Murphy, I don't even think Sean Murphy's doing it to that degree. Like, what are you expecting? Obviously, Wilson Contreras struggles with the glove and at times, and struggles, handling pitching staffs. But I feel like to be 2 weeks in and be so caught off guard by the discrepancy between the Hall of Fame backstop, who is a Hall of Famer mostly because of his mind, and the polar opposite of a guy that has always kind of struggled with this thing, specifically, is just so nuts to me. And I just don't really understand. Also, I have one more thought on it. I'm going to kick it to you because there's one most pressing thought about this that I think is really funny in terms of the scapegoating of Wilson Contreras. But I'll kick it to you because I just talked for like 3 minutes.
No, I mean, just a quick follow-up there. Like what John Mozeliak is saying there is he is not expecting a stark drop-off. Like he was just assuming that every catcher had Yadier Molina traits. You
Correct.
say that Yadier Molina is a Hall of Famer. Do you know what his career OPS is?
God, it's like 760.
726. He's a career 96 OPS plus guy, and he's a Hall of Famer because he is the best defensive catcher we have arguably ever seen before.
Yeah.
So you're assuming that guys have Yadier Molina traits? Like, if that's not kicking a gift horse in the mouth and just expecting that everybody is going to be that, I don't know what is. Like, that is, again, really smart guy. We've credited John Mozeliak for being a really smart guy. That was a dumbass thing to say.
100%. Like, and we did wonder, like, how are you going to replace Yachty? What is that going to look like? And I think now we're really understanding why they had no urgency to move Yachty off of home plate, even when he was a borderline corpse, was because of what he was still bringing to the table. What stands out the most to me is, what's the one thing that the Cardinals haven't really done over the last couple of years? It's address the pitching staff. And why do they feel like they could probably get away with it? Yadier Molina's prowess behind the dish, again, as that built-in pitching coach, allowed the Cardinals to almost mask a mediocre pitching staff. So now you have a catcher who maybe doesn't help, maybe even hurts a little bit, your pitching staff. And all of a sudden, it's that much more obvious how mediocre or subpar even your pitching staff is. And that's the funniest part to me, is like, they're talking about, oh, well, our guys aren't executing pitches. Well, maybe if you had better pitchers, they'd execute their pitches. Like, I understand that the catcher helps them do that. And if they had Yachty, the staff's probably doing better. But again, you're surprised that your mediocre pitching staff is not executing pitches? Like, you're surprised by that? Like, that's what is also crazy to me. Like, yeah, I think Yadier Molina was extremely valuable in masking what was not great pitching overall. But now we're going to put that onus on Willson Contreras when you're rolling out a starting five or a five-man rotation that everybody said at the beginning of the year. And that was even without Waino. Yeah, like I just don't understand it. That was the other side of it when they're talking about like execution of pitches and putting that onus on Willson. It's like good pitchers execute pitches, even if I'm back there. And if they're not as good, like it's okay. He's not going to kill you. The final thing I'm going to say is Willson Contreras is not the reason why this team is 13 games under 500. No. Maybe the struggles are part of it, but hell, man, there's a lot of other reasons. But yeah, like good pitchers will execute pitches more. It's just that simple.
Yeah. So like I immediately pull up Martin Maldonado's spot track page because I'm like, okay, they spent $87.5 million on the heir to the Yadier Molina throne. If you wanted Yachty production from not Yachty, you just go trade for Martin Maldonado. And I
don't think the Astros will ever trade that guy
for that reason. You, like, there was a price tag that you could have put on Martin Maldonado where, they're just like, yeah, all right, yeah, we'll do that. Cool.
Yeah, take that guy.
Right, like we'll take that guy. And I understand that Maldonado is like very sneakily untouchable, but he's an unrestricted free agent after this year. So I was thinking, all right, that you buy out 1 year of Maldonado for, a good prospect. They're willing to do that if they think that that is the recipe to success. It's not. That's the point. Willson Contreras, by all the advanced metrics, is an average to slightly above average catcher defensively. He is an above average bat. We know that. He was a guy that was paid what he was worth, relatively speaking, to the market. He was paid like the best catcher on the market, and that's what he was. That's why he got close to $90 million. But if you wanted a defensive savvy guy, there were cheaper options here. I don't think the Cardinals knew what they were looking for on the catching market when they went and got Willson Contreras. I think they just fell in love with the idea of going to get the best catcher on the market after they put out one of the best lineups in baseball last year. So I think they got too quickly enamored with an idea that they were not married to.
And also, yeah, I totally agree. And another thing too is like when your rival who is also trying to shift into win now mode, like this isn't a rebuilding Cubs team. This is a Cubs team that's trying to win in the next year or two, that just paid for Dansby Swanson, that signed Jameson Taillon, that basically bought Cody Bellinger on like a one and done deal if he plays well. If they're willing to say, hey, Willson, I think it's best you go elsewhere and roll with like Yan Gomes, that probably tells you something in terms of their frustrations with what he was doing behind the dish. Again, I thought it was just more of a change of scenery thing. But again, if he excelled or if he was even okay behind the dish, they let their catcher with an 815 OPS walk, who was homegrown and one of the last guys from the historic team. Like that should tell you something. I wish I had it in front of me. I was kind of blanking on how to pull it up. The stats, like could we get like ERA by catcher? Isn't there a place where you can normally? I don't know why I'm blanking on where I normally dig that up, but I would love to see the ERA of this staff by catcher, because if you look, I wonder how egregious it is. Obviously, the Cardinals are a very forward-thinking organization, know what they're doing, and I'm sure they've looked at the numbers and seen something somewhat alarming. But with that same notion, like, is it Willson Contreras' fault that Jack Flaherty has walked 22 in 34 innings? Is it Willson Contreras' fault that Steven Matz has a 5.7 ERA and has given up 7 home runs? 3 pitchers on this staff have given up 7 home runs through their first 7 starts. Miles Mikolas, Steven Matz, and Jake Woodford. Guess what? I mean, I know Mikolas was good last year, so maybe you can put Mikolas in a separate bucket here. Matz was terrible last year. Jake Woodford is Jake Woodford. Like, again, like I don't really know what they were expecting here. To me, it's pretty insane.
And now they take a step back in the lineup. because of this move, because they want to send a message to Wilson Contreras, who didn't even need a message sent to him. The word that jumped out to me in the athletic reports was preparation. I think that Ali Marmol used the word preparation and how it looks different than Yadi's. I think John Mozeliak used the word preparation and how it looks different than Yadi's. No catcher is going to prepare like Yadier Molina. I have heard, though, in Chicago that like Wilson Contreras lacked some preparation skills. So, I mean, like that's a thing that, again, you should know. But throwing what?
I got Steven Matz's numbers by catcher.
Oh, okay. What's going on here?
So Andrew, I always blank on this too. Andrew Kisner. That's so fake. Andrew, just ignore the N, I guess. Andrew Kisner, right? ERA. So 3 starts with Andrew Kisner for Steven Matz. 3.94 ERA. Opponents are hitting 226. Wilson Contreras, 4 starts. 7.08 ERA. Opponents are hitting 345.
Okay, so say that, Kisner is the answer defensively. It's the answer for Steven Matz, and Matz is going to be better when he throws to Kisner, and Kisner is going to be the primary catcher now. What you are doing is creating, and I love the word that they used here, logjam. I used traffic yesterday, but it's a total logjam here. Because Wilson, the initial report was that he was going to play the outfield. Then you're taking at bats away from one of these talented outfielders. Now he's going to DH, which in turn forces a hot bat in Nolan Gorman to the infield, which in turn takes at bats away from Brendan Donovan, Tommy Edman, or Paul DeYoung, who's swinging a great bat right now. So you are creating more traffic in a spot that is really good for you in the lineup to have Andrew Kisner or Trace Barrera in the lineup. It's backwards. You're taking a step backwards right now.
It's a mess. And here's the other thing too that's interesting, and this is the most important thing, because like it might be very valid that Wilson Contreras is leaving something to be desired defensively. And the thing is, again, similar to the Jordan Walker situation, if they were not sucking, they would be able to push through it and let him catch. What's surprising to me though is every single team, that I think was in on Wilson Contreras, they had the discussion of, is it worth giving up the defensive side for what you're going to get on the offensive side? And do we think he can improve defensively in a new environment? So that's the other thing is like, I'm just surprised that they're willing to do it this quickly and not give him more of a chance. I got another one for you though, man. There's numbers to back it up on this. Miles Michaelis. It might be worse in this situation. Andrew Kisner, 2 starts with Kisner, 3.65 ERA, opponents at 2.65. So that's 13 hits and a total of 5 earned runs. Wilson Contreras, 5 games, 25 innings, 6.84 ERA. Opponents have 40 hits. They're hitting 364 with a 1,000 OPS. That's wild.
And okay, I immediately thought of, all right, it's game calling. I assume that it's game calling, right?
I guess it's got to be and you know what sucks for Contreras too, I think a little bit is that, and I think it might have been hit on in the piece. There's so much more pressure now to be on it because you can't get the sign from, you could have pitches being called from the dugout even if you want. Now it's really tough with the pitch clock. Everything is so go, 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 go. So if you were already kind of struggling with the cerebral side of catching, now it's even more kind of exacerbated because it's go, 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 go. So the best catchers defensively, Yadi would be thriving in this. But it does kind of throw him to the fire. But again, did the Cardinals not think about that? Did they not think, oh, this is a guy that struggles with pitch calling, and now he's going to be thrown into like a go, go, go environment? And also our pitching staff isn't that good, and it's going to be a taller task for him. I think that one's kind of interesting too. I'm going to pull up one more as you speak. It's Jamont, because Jamont's been good, period. I want to see how because this would be the one example of, hey, well, this is actually a proven consistently good pitcher. Like he throws fine with Wilson. Let's see.
Yeah. So what I was going to say is, all right, now may I counter with the pitch com thing? I know that there are pitchers that call their own pitches right now. You see the PitchCom device on their glove or on their belt, or Ohtani, he puts it under his jersey. Why don't you have the pitchers call their own pitches. Like, doesn't that seem like a simple workaround?
Maybe not every pitcher wants to do that.
Yeah, but I mean, if shit's hitting the fan like this, I think a pitcher needs to be a team guy and say, you know what? Yeah, I'll call my own game.
Instead of log jamming the lineup. Last one for you too, Jamont. 28 in the third innings with Contreras, a 3.81 ERA.
Okay.
Kind of close to his career average. Opponents at 261. With Kisner, 2 starts, 12 and 2/3 innings, a 2.13 ERA.
Damn it. Proving our points.
So, I mean, the numbers are bad. Yeah, the numbers are bad, but it's still like, I think it still kind of highlights exactly what we were talking about, which was, what did they expect? Like, there was going to be some growing pains there, because also they're learning to work with a new catcher. They've worked with Kisner before. Yeah, this isn't their first time working with Kisner. Like, that's another side of it too. These are these guys' first starts with Wilson Contreras. There's typically growing pains, whether Contreras is great or mediocre or subpar. So again, like, why wouldn't we try to work through this and then, get to a point where it's working? The only reason is because this team's panicking. And that's what it really boils down to. Because if they had the big picture in mind here, it's, let's get Wilson right, because for this team to win the World Series, Wilson needs to be behind the dish. Yeah. Because our best lineup, we've got a logjam, like you said. Our best lineup is with Wilson behind the dish. So that is, again, an example of this team is slamming the panic button right now, because they're saying, if we have Wilson behind the dish and these pitchers struggle a few more times through the rotation, our season might be gone from us, just gone. And that's a crazy, crazy thing to say. I think also clubhouse-wise, I wonder how much longer Oli Marmol is going to be hanging around here.
Lost. There are 4 examples here of Cardinal dysfunction in the first 2 months of the season. Hey, man, in the first 6 weeks of the season. First example, Jordan Walker makes the opening day roster, as does Taylor Motter. Juan Yepez gets optioned to Memphis. That made no sense at all. Like, Motter on that roster, when you have an infielder surplus and you're optioning Yepez, who is a great bat against lefties. Why? That's example 1. Example 2 was the Tyler O'Neill, Ali Marmol thing, which we documented. Marmol, took exception to a guy that built his career on hustling, not hustling, whatever. Like, and he, instead of, like, I can see where Ali's coming from, but instead of addressing it with Tyler O'Neill like an adult, he goes to the media and says this and doesn't confront O'Neill, and O'Neill takes exception to that. That's example 2. Example 3 was the weird transaction chart that we saw, right? Paul DeYoung activated, Taylor Motter DFA'd, Motter signed to a major league deal, Jordan Walker optioned the next day. Example 3. Example 4 is this with Barrera coming up and Motter being DFA'd. Like, it's such a weird thing going on with Ali Marmol, with John Mozeliak. It feels like they have no idea how to operate in crunch time, because frankly, they haven't been in crunch time. Did I see this note correctly, that the Cardinals were never this far below 500 when Yadier Molina was the catcher for them? Huh. I think at any point in their career, at any point in Yadi's career.
That's pretty wild.
Wow.
I don't know if Nolan Arenado has ever had a 608 OPS through his first 34 games of the season either, though. Like, I don't know about that. So it does kind of go in a lot of different directions there. And but yeah, it's a fascinating situation here in St. Louis. It's going to be fun to continue to monitor.
Yeah. So now I ask you next steps. Like, at what point do the Cardinals think about not blowing it up, but at one point do the Cardinals think about making moves to improve, areas that they have shortcomings?
I think
now is it now or the deadline?
I think June. So I think by the end of this month, we've seen teams that, when they get off to a bad start, you got to make the decision: do we fire this manager? And I think that's step 1. And I think if they continue to struggle with this catching change, because that's, another experiment here, and they still struggle, I think you got to consider firing Marmol. I don't know what's going on behind closed doors. It seems like, from what we've seen publicly, like, O'Neill wasn't happy, and that can't be the only guy. And I think O'Neill's a pretty important guy, clubhouse wise to that team. So I assume that he wasn't the only one that took exception to the way that was handled by Oli Marmol. And I assume several of the teammates probably aren't thrilled with the way that the Contreras situation has been handled. So, yeah, I'm interested to see what they do, but I think, you might have to consider shaking it up manager wise. That sometimes is the best thing that teams can do. We saw teams off slow starts. You look at the Marlins way back in 2003, they fired their manager and got fired. Did the Nationals fire their manager in 2019?
No, didn't they give Davey Martinez a vote of confidence?
Oh, no, that was Martinez. Yeah, that they gave him the vote of confidence. Are there any other examples of like early struggles, fire your manager, lights a fire on you to get going? Yeah.
Yeah, Rob Thompson last year. Was that last year or the year before in Philly?
Oh, Philly. That was last year.
That was last year when
Rob Thompson. There you go.
Fired Rob Thompson. Boom, you get going.
Yeah.
Same thing with the Montoyo John Schneider thing in Toronto.
Yeah. So I can't believe how long Dave Martinez has been in Washington.
It's crazy, man. And they got rid of
fantastic human being, by the way.
Davey Martinez.
I've only interacted with him a couple times in the clubhouse, but man, I mean, like after that Strasburg start that I covered, it was just like that team sucked so bad. And like
that's the low point of your season. Your $300 million man comes
back and just severely underwhelmed. And just the way he was interacting with everybody, I just love the way he goes about his business, because like that's probably the low point of his career. Martinez. I mean, I don't think it's been worse than what it was last year. Like even this year's already way better. There's a reason why they've kept him around. And I think the team loves him. But yeah, I think the Thompson situation with Girardi, I think is probably the best example in this case.
Yeah, so I guess you're hoping to replicate that Joe Girardi to Rob Thompson magic that Philly had last year, and that decision.
You got to look at that. That
decision's got to come pretty soon. All right, moving on. I've got two more quick things that I want to hit on here. Vaughn Grissom getting optioned because Orlando Arcia is back for Atlanta, and then Eloy's appendectomy. Obviously sucks that Eloy had appendicitis, but this is him going on the shelf again, and this is the White Sox fragility continuing. Let's start with the Grissom Arcia thing. Orlando Arcia is back. Orlando Arcia is the shortstop for your 2023 Atlanta Braves, who are one of the best teams in baseball, who just took 2 or 3 from Baltimore. And Grissom is back to Gwinnett. So I guess the way that I want to pose this is, how do you think Atlanta views Vaughn Grissom now?
So we talked about it a little bit before we recorded. I think Vaughn Grissom is still a big part of their long-term plans. I still think he's a big part of their future. That said, things can change when somebody is made available, or there's an opportunity to make your team better. I don't think you let Vaughn Grissom stop you from doing that if it's a significant upgrade. Let's say there's a world where Arcia struggles or gets hurt again, and you either have to throw Vaughn Grissom or Braden Shoemake in there or do something else, and Tim Anderson's available. You're not letting Vaughn Grissom, this is hypothetically, you're not letting Vaughn Grissom stop you from getting Tim Anderson. But are you going to trade Vaughn Grissom for a great high leverage reliever? No, I don't think so. I think the only way is if he is one of the key pieces in a trade for a very, very good player. Because I think what's happened with Vaughn Grissom, it's one of those situations where I think we get away from what the guy's actual path has been, which has been one that he is so talented. He forced his way up to the big leagues when they needed somebody, but that doesn't mean that he was necessarily ready. He helped them last year through 41 games because they needed somebody to come up there.
And he was a hot hand.
And he was a hot hand. Exactly. This dude, we were talking about, the big jump for Michael Harris. It was an even bigger jump for Vaughn Grissom, who, played less games at the AA level, pretty much made the jump from high A for the most part, and went up to the big leagues and was that hot hand, like you said, then hit a wall towards the back end. This dude is not totally figured out as a hit. I don't think he's totally figured himself out as a hitter because he's only had so many professional at-bats. He was drafted out of high school, played rookie ball for 44 games in 2019 as an 18-year-old, had the COVID year in 2020, then 2021 plays 87 games between low A and high A, puts up great numbers. Then 2022 is last year. This guy has barely played professional baseball. He is so talented that he has been able to tread water and contribute at the big league level, but he wasn't talented enough to jump from high A, essentially, learn shortstop, and also hit. I thought he might be that good. I watched the video. I thought that he could, maybe learned the position through the tutelage of Ron Washington. But here's what ended up happening. The veteran Arcia, who's still 28 though, so still relatively young, was able to use the Ron Washington direction and apply it to games a little bit quicker. A guy that's had a lot of big league success under his belt. Grissom's been great in AAA. He's hitting 400 through 11 games. Like, I think he's going to be just fine. But this guy still needs to kind of get acclimated to all parts of his game. He's never played more than, I think he's played a total of 200 professional baseball games, maybe a little bit more. Like, that is nothing out of high school.
That's the thing. To play a major league caliber shortstop, you got to learn how to play shortstop. And again, Vaughn Grissom, like, he doesn't really know how to play a professional shortstop at this point. He's learning, and like, he seems like a quick learner. He's 22. He might be ready when he's 23. But they have a 28-year-old that was at one point a top prospect and, was like a great young talent for the Brewers in Orlando Arcia. The game works slower for him. So, like, he doesn't have much to figure out offensively. Orlando Arcia doesn't have to adjust to big league pitching. He's seen big league pitching for 6 years at this point. So all his focus is on right now is getting great at shortstop with Ron Washington. Yep. Grissom, it's okay. I got to allot 2 hours to get great at shortstop with Ron Washington. This is a brand new frontier for me. And also I got to learn how to hit, whoever, Sandy tonight. I got to learn how to hit
upper level pitching. How about just upper level pitching?
Exactly.
Like right now he's in AAA. He's never played in triple. He's never played in AAA before. So like, I know he played 41 big league games last year, but like this guy never played in triple. So yeah, like Arcia, you hit the nail on the head. Like that's a guy that is just making sure that he can play shortstop. He's got enough confidence that he can at least be a 700 OPS guy. And he's been better than that. And just hold it down at short because he really improved himself defensively. But that's a lot to ask of a kid that has barely played professional baseball. So yeah, I think Arcia is the guy. And I don't know if they need to make a move. If Arcia is a 730, 740 OPS guy and plays the defense, like he looks great out there. He looks like a different dude.
Yeah.
Do you go get another shortstop? Like this is a wagon otherwise. Mike Harris is back raking. Like they look good.
Yeah. My thing on Twitter is satire. So I went to the MLB trade machine and I put out Grissom, Schuster, and Dylan Dodd for Tim Anderson. And like the trade values are very fun. Like they line up pretty well. It went through. I don't think that Atlanta would do that. But if they are looking at a crumbling White Sox at the deadline and they say, hey, you know what? Shit, Tim Anderson's available and he's got a year of control after this. He's got a team option and that still puts him under $10 million, I think. Like, do you part with Vaughn Grissom to go get Tim Anderson?
If that was there, I think it depends on how Arcia is playing, right? Like if Arcia's got a,
are you gonna let a 720 OPS and good defense Orlando Arcia stop you from going to get Tim Anderson?
I'm winning baseball games, absolutely.
Okay,
because it's not just like stopping you from getting Tim Anderson, it's stopping you from parting with a really good young talent. Like even if it's not in the cards for Grissom at short, okay, the guy might be able to play left. Like he can play left, and that bat's good. That's one of those, like, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. If they're playing at a high level and Arcia is playing great defense, I'm not changing anything. But, if they're, neck and neck with the Mets somehow, or, not separating themselves and Arcia is, underwhelming a bit, absolutely. I'll trade Vaughn Grissom for Tim Anderson in 2 seconds.
So how about this? Cardinals, season's a wash. Tyler O'Neill for Vaughn Grissom straight up.
Oh,
he solves your left field problem.
Dude, Tyler O'Neill hasn't been good.
Yeah.
And he's hurt again. Hasn't been good and he's hurt again. What do the Cardinals do with Tyler O'Neill? That's the question.
I don't know. That's a crazy one. I don't think Tyler O'Neill's a Cardinal by the end of the season.
No, I don't think so either. I think they're going to cash him in. And I think they need to shake things up. And I love Tyler O'Neill. I think he's a big part of their success. But if he's not playing well, and obviously, I assume they're pros. They bury the hatchet. But like, you think he and Oli Marmol get drinks after the games or hang out, invite each other to dinner?
What do you think Tyler O'Neill drinks. I think he drinks that Bud Light Next thing that's like
He might not drink beer
or something.
He might not drink, period.
You don't even think like a Michelob Ultra. Like I could
Maybe
see
a
him
Michelob
doing
Ultra.
like I do one shot of a clear liquor and that's it.
Tequila. Yeah, just do tequila, soda, and I hydrate between.
Yeah, and that's it.
Yeah.
My body's a temple.
Yeah. Well, it's not working right now. Like, the poor dude can't stay healthy.
Unfortunately. But again, that guy is so like fine muscle movement. Like Tyler O'Neill is a sports car. Like he treats his body like it's, a Ferrari, and Ferrari, like, I don't know how reliable of cars those are. They look cool and they go really fast, but I feel like when you got to take them in for service, like there are 10 things wrong.
Yeah. And Ferraris don't have necks either.
Oh yeah. Good point.
I can't. This picture always I just always look at him. It's like his head is just attached to his shoulders.
Yeah, that's Trapezosaurus Rex right there.
Yeah.
All right. Last thing from me, Eloy Jimenez has an appendectomy. He was in the hospital with abdominal pain, and obviously you hope for the best, like appendicitis. Glad he got that taken care of, surely. But this is Eloy Jimenez hitting the IL again, and this is since the start of 2020, per NBC Sports Chicago and the King, Chris Kamka. Yoan Moncada has played 74% of the possible games. Yasmani Grandal, 64%. Tim Anderson, 64%. Luis Roberts, 61%. Eloy Jimenez, 52%. That means that the five of Moncada, Grandal, Anderson, Robert, Jimenez, your big five, have combined to play 11%. They've been in the lineup for 11% of the 418 possible games since the start of 2020. That's unbelievable. This feels like the Brooklyn Nets, man.
Except less talented.
Less talented. This is like the poor man's Brooklyn Nets from this past couple of years.
Gosh, that is crazy. So by the time he's done with this appendectomy, like he's out, 3 to 4 weeks?
I saw 4 to 6.
4 to 6. So by the time he's done with this, he'll be under half, probably under 50% of the games.
Yep.
That is gross.
He's so good when he's on the field too, man. He's a great power back.
What do they do? You can't trade him. No one's
you can't trade him. I don't think you can trade Luis Robert at this point.
No, too many years of control. You gotta ride that one out.
You gotta ride that one out. Moncada's too expensive. Grandal is making 18 this year, like not moving him. Giolito is like damaged goods at this point.
You'll get a mid-level prospect for a rental Giolito. You'll get, and we talked about is you got to trade Cease.
You got to trade Cease. And like Anderson, he's got a year and a half of control, but TA is the face of the franchise. Like I would extend Tim Anderson if I was the White Sox.
No, and we'll see.
It's so hard. They're going to have to make
at least you got
decisions.
Andrew Benintendi locked up for the foreseeable future, which
is really exciting. I hope.
Question for you. Also, have we talked about Cody Bellinger?
Not really. We can talk about Bellinger.
I want to just like this is so cool.
Yeah.
Like this is awesome. And like even if he falls off a cliff, which I don't think he will.
Yeah.
Like if he's a 100 WRC plus guy the rest of the year, this season would already be a victory because what he's done for the first 31 games would put him at, probably he'd finish with like a 108 WRC plus with good defense. Like that's all we wanted. And now he's been way better than that. Cody Bellinger of the Chicago Cubs is slashing 300, 368, 567 with 7 home runs, 9 stolen bases. He's tied with James Outman, Xander Bogaerts, Marcus Semien, and Brandon Nimmo for 8th in F4. And it's early. Like ahead of them is Tyro Estrada and Jonah Heim. But the point being is, we've seen this from Cody Bellinger before. We didn't think it would ever come back. I don't know if he's MVP Bellinger. I don't think anyone needs him to be. Yeah. But a lot of the underlying metrics look good, right? This isn't just like lightning in a bottle. This is a guy that looks like he might have found something here, which is awesome. Like you look at the whiff rates, down. Zone contact, slightly up. Chase rate, down. It just looks like this might be for real. And again, I think the offense is going to taper off a little bit. That's fine. We were just hoping he could even be a league average hitter. I think he'll be better than that. This is so cool because Bellinger, by all accounts, is an awesome dude. Baseball is better when Bellinger's good, and it seems like he's good. So He might make himself a bag after this year.
College football is better when Texas, USC, and Miami are good, and baseball is better when Cody Bellinger and Christian Yelich are good. Like, and luckily we have one of them coming back. I hope he gets the bag. Bellinger, what's notable to me is this guy looked lost at points, and the mid-20s K rate in 2021 and 2022 felt like 40% some days. It felt like he was swinging under everything. But now this guy's putting up a sub 20% K rate in a full season for the first time since his MVP year in 2019. So Bellinger is, I guess, a bit more disciplined. He's not walking as much as he did when he was like prime Bellinger. But you also got to look at like what he's done across full seasons in his career. He's not an 8-win player like he was in his 2019 MVP season. But what he could be when he won, did he win NL Rookie of the Year in 17? Do I have that right?
I think so.
Yeah, Bellinger won Rookie of the Year in 17. He was a 4-win player that year. I think he can be a 4-win player. He played, okay, so he was the Rookie of the Year as a 21-year-old with bad defense. Like they were trying to figure out whether he was playing a bad corner or first base. Now he's a great center fielder. And I think this guy might be better than his Rookie of the Year.
That's exactly what I was going to kind of hit on here. It's like, I think the year to look at is 2018, where he hits 260, 343, 470 with an 814 OPS. I think Cody Bellinger can be that, but now he has made the rest of his game so much better. Yep. So he's gonna demolish any stolen base mark he had in previous years. His career high was 15. He has 9. He's 9 for 10 already this year. This dude might go 30-30. He's definitely going 20-20, which is awesome. So you have a 2020 season and you have phenomenal defense. So that 2018 season, he only had a 3.4 FWAR because of the lack of defensive value there. Now, if he puts up a 120 WRC plus like he did in that 2018 season, steals more bags, hits around 25 home runs, and plays better defense, that's a 5-win player. A 5-win player in center field, like it's not the same frame in terms of type of player, but it's not that far off from the value of what the Mets get from Brandon Nimmo. Like that is pretty damn good. I think if he plays to that degree, like I think the ups and downs may, hold back how much teams are willing to give him. Yeah. But I mean, that's $100 million player. A 5-win center fielder is $100 million player.
It 100% is. I've got a great friend growing up who texts me every time Bellinger does something good. And he's like, I bet my kidney on Cody Bellinger being an all-star. I'm like, okay, that's a crazy stark bet. But at this point, kind of looked like he's on that track.
And the glove, man, it's been cool to see him turn into such a good defender out there. So far this season, he is 2 outs above average in center, but I think it's going to continue to climb up. And it's just cool to see him continue to compile stolen bases and check all the boxes. I hope Cody Bellinger is an all-star. That'd be freaking awesome.
That'd be so cool, man. Like that announcement in Seattle would be crazy. So that's it from us. Cardinal dysfunction. Bellinger is back. Vaughn Grissom is back in Gwinnett, and the White Sox can't stay healthy for the life of them. All right, you two, Peter and Aram, will be back with an episode tomorrow. Every link you need is in the show notes. Again, Just Baseball Show presented by BetMGM. Use code JustBaseball for a deposit match and get your merch. We're both wearing our rope hat. The dad hat is also excellent, and the performance long sleeve is gas. So, talk to you guys tomorrow.